You're just picking up quite a lot of sound for some reason.
Testing. Well, I was fiddling with the mic stand.
Still
picking up sound.
Now when I talk... there we go. There, you were fiddling with it. That's why.
Yeah.
You moron. That's a bit mean, isn't it?
That's a little bit mean.
Well,
yeah.
It's Halloween after all. It's not a time for being mean though, is it?
No, it's time for being frightening, you twat.
Welcome to the Gaps in Knowledge podcast. I'm Rhys, and I'm a geographer that knows nothing about history.
I'm Will, I'm a historian who knows nothing about geography.
And on this week's episode, I'm going to be hopping over to the Isle of Man to see how they celebrate Halloween and see also what they do with their pumpkins after they finish with them.
And I'm going to say yes, murder some children, and then just ruin everyone's day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just a quick warning here. If you are eating or you have a sensitive stomach, maybe skip this episode.
Yeah, my segments are a no food, no nan zone. So be warned.
Oh dear. So you here we go. You tried to do some funny wordplay with misconception. Do you want to tell the boys and girls what you tried to do with it?
Funny is over. Misconception Corner. It's Misconception Corner. You're welcome.
Nice. Okay, so my misconception corner. I have a question for you, and it is: what do people carve for Halloween on the Isle of Man?
Ooh. Okay, cats with no tails.
Cats with no...
all I know about the Isle of Man, and motorbikes. So it's one of those two.
Okay, the second latter, the motorbikes I get. What, cats with no tails? I have no idea.
Manx cats, they don't have tails.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tailless cats.
Oh, I've learned something new already, and it's my own bit here.
Spooky, isn't it?
So you're going with motorbikes. You carve motorbikes, the aluminium coat. That's incorrect, actually. But I can see the logic, even though.
Well, yeah, you know one thing about that place. That means that place is all about that one thing.
That's true. Do you know the capital of Isle of Man?
Is it Douglas?
It is Douglas. Well done. Very good. But do you know what would be what answer am I aiming for you here?
Some kind of vegetable. You want me to say pumpkin?
Yeah, you're wrong if you say pumpkins.
Pumpkin.
But now it is obviously a vegetable. What type of vegetable could also be? I always think they could be quite scary linked as well.
Well, for some reason, I'm thinking turnip.
He's on it. Yeah, it's turnips.
It's turnips.
It's turnips. Absolutely turnips. So, they carve turnips on the Isle of Man for Halloween, which I think is quite cool.
That's quite cool.
But they don't call it Halloween in Isle of Man. You'd get slapped on the face if you called it Halloween. They call it. So this is the thing, right? They call it hop-tu-naa.
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 Right.
But this is. I was reading an article about hop-tu-naa, but it's spelled HOP-TU-NAA.
Okay.
So it sounds like hot tuna.
Hot tuna.
But if you say that, you have to leave the island,
slapped in the face and then have to leave.
Yeah. You'd be told to go away. No, but it's an old traditional Celtic festival of Samhain, which is the start of the winter period, which is what they're celebrating. And it's the longest unbroken old tradition on the Isle of Man.
Nice.
Which is quite cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they keep doing it. But it's changed a little bit, and they do, for example, the turnip thing is a relatively new thing. But they kind of, it's kind of similar to Halloween in the sense that in hop-tu-naa, the kids, instead of carving pumpkins, they make turnip lanterns, which are called moots.
That's nice.
Which is quite a cool word, a moot. And then they sing, there's lots of these hop-tu-naa Halloween style songs that they sing to celebrate. It's slightly different to what the rest of the British Isles will celebrate with Halloween. Or I suppose Halloween has been kind of Americanized in that it's very American kind of commercial, like Christmas, I suppose, as well. But it's a very old tradition which has kept going forever in the Isle of Man. And only the turnip has recently appeared since the 19th century, because before that it wasn't even a vegetable in the Isle of Man. So it then adopted.
So what were they carving back in the day?
I don't know. I don't think anything. They were doing other things back in the day, and I'll get onto that.
Oh dear,
because it's mental,
right?
But it's the carving of turnips is definitely something which is more tame compared to what they've got up to and still get up to for celebrating hop-tu-naa. But they just sing songs. It's like a regular Halloween festival, but the kids carve turnips and they walk around with these lanterns and knock on doors and do a very similar approach. However, and this is something I kind of want to talk about because I was reading about this. I thought, it's just kind of Halloween, what we do in the UK, but they call it hop-tu-naa and carved turnips. And then I read something else. My God. Okay, so they do other things they try and predict the future or predict the weather from hop-tu-naa going into winter.
It's already taken a turn that I'm very much enjoying.
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm in.
Can you wait? They do some particularly peculiar things, all about prediction the future and predicting the future. That's the time of the year, but you use your surroundings to try and identify what your future is going to be. It's like palm reading, but for Halloween style. It's a bit odd. So what they do, there is something called a sodag valu.
Okay.
And a sodag valu is translated to a dumb cake. So a cake has been made and it has to be eaten and made in silence.
Oh, okay. Dumb as in you can't talk.
Exactly that.
Not
dumb as in you can't talk.
Right.
That's quite weird.
That is strange.
It gets weirder.
Yeah.
The cake was divided up and eaten in silence, and still without speaking, all who had eaten it went to bed, walking backwards, expecting and hoping to see the future husband in a dream or vision.
What? Okay, but if presumably they're not all in the same house or something. Like,
well, this is what I imagine.
Walk backwards through the town through your own front door.
Yeah, that way in my mind's eye, I imagine it was made in the family, and they'd eat it in silence. And since someone finished, they'd just walk backwards to their beds.
But if it's to see their husband,
oh yeah,
then that would be a bit awkward if the wife sees her future husband and he's not sat next to her.
That is
while
odd,
she's
isn't
eating the dumb cake, but she can't then say anything.
No. They're
Terrence.
Like perpetually jinxed.
Yeah, exactly.
I just imagine also like zombie walking, but backwards. Zombies go back into the grave. Like that's kind of what this is.
Very strange.
That's weird, isn't it?
That is odd.
Do you want to hear something else that's weird?
Yeah.
There's a bit more to what they celebrate hop-tu-naa, other activities to get up to. So other activities was to steal a salt herring from a neighbour, roast it over the fire, eat it again in silence, and again retire to bed.
Well, that's not a custom. That's just theft.
Exactly right.
What? But then if everyone does it, then that means you've just basically passed your herring on to the person to the right.
Pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Pass the parcel, but with a salted herring.
Yeah, and then roasting it over your own. You haven't got to steal someone else's fire, I assume. But then,
why is everyone silent?
Yeah, this is what I don't know.
That's the weird thing.
It's a weird thing to do it in silence. This kind of thing, because I don't know. It just feels to me like in hop-tu-naa in Isle of Man, if everyone in Isle of Man did this all at the same time, it felt like a massive liminal space where it should be noisy and people talking, but it's just dead silence and people just walking backwards and eating cake.
The only sound you hear is somebody walking backwards into a tailless cat.
Yeah,
terrifying.
You couldn't do the MotoGP.
No,
at that time, it's a little bit too noisy.
A little bit.
There was a bit more to that actually. Or retire to bed, or to hold water in your mouth and a pinch of salt in each hand as you listen to a neighbour's conversation, whereupon the first name mentioned would be that of your future spouse.
What? That's not how anything works.
No, but that's what you do in hop-tu-naa in the Isle of Man.
So all three of these are just getting the locals to shut up, essentially.
Yes, essentially. Yeah. Sick of it the whole year.
No, here's our custom. You just shut up for the evening.
But here's the thing. They've been silent, but then they have to listen to their neighbour. That doesn't work. If everyone is being silent, you can't hear the conversation of your neighbour if they're also being silent, listening maybe to you.
Unless it's like French oral exams where you get a 5-minute slot and then your neighbour has to be silent and get some salt and a
is it timetable?
Water, yeah.
There's a memo that gets delivered around Douglas and everyone has to follow it.
And then who's the last person left?
That's the loser.
And the loser, exactly.
Yeah, there's one each year.
Smacked in the face and kicked off the island.
Kicked off the island because they said hop-tu-naa. But yeah, hop-tu-naa. Isle of Man festival, carving turnips, walking around in silence and eating cake and listening to neighbours.
I like that because none of those are actually frightening, but taken together, they are very weird.
Yeah.
Very, very strange.
Very strange. Are we going to be doing that? Do you reckon we can adopt that over here in Germany?
Just get everyone to shut up for a bit. It'd be nice.
Quite peaceful, actually.
Yeah.
I got a sip of tea and listen to you trick me now.
My Misconception Corner.
Misconception Corner.
Ooh, that was the call.
I didn't spat tea everywhere with that then. Whoops.
So my question for you is, what is a Ouija board for?
Oh, no. So, firstly, it's spelled yes, isn't it?
It is, but that's a misconception in itself. That's not where the word comes from.
Right, okay.
It was the first word that the inventor of the Ouija board found on the Ouija board was Ouija. So he called it Ouija board.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So the Ouija board.
We've already had one.
Pardon?
We've already had one misconception.
Misconception, yeah, we can't keep going. So, okay, what was it originally used for? I imagine it wasn't really. So the obvious one here is it was used to contact the dead,
which is actually true.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you've dodged the misconception.
Because can I just say, can I go back and get caught? Because I initially thought it was it's just a general family board game.
That's the misconception.
That's the misconception. Okay.
Exactly.
Do I get double points or do I lose my point?
I think you lost a point for falling into yes, and then you got a point back. So you're currently pointless.
Pointless.
As we all are.
I'm happy. What Pythagoras would have said, I think.
So that is the misconception, that people think that the Ouija board is just a board game. But it's not. It's definitely for contacting the dead. That's what people have always thought they've been doing with it. And people have always done weird writing things to contact the dead, kind of automatic writing where you go into some kind of a trance and then see what you come up with. It's been around in China for almost 1,000 years, and it's still practiced in some forms, called Fuji writing. But this is slightly different because with a Ouija board, of course, you're not writing, you're moving a little kind of glass or a palette or something around the board.
That's it. I realised I did the hand action, but we're on a podcast, so no one saw that.
Not a visual medium, Rhys. Good try.
Thank you.
But the reason Ouija boards in themselves, that misconception, they're kind of interesting. I mean, it's obviously nonsense, but the reason why I wanted to talk about them is because the whole movement of spiritualism, which Ouija boards are linked to. Have you heard of spiritualism? Is
it spiritualism? Is this the contacting the dead mediums, Derek Acora, who actually came out to be a bit of a false guy? And all,
exactly.
Yeah, but that kind of thing.
Yeah. Derek Acora, a false guy with his spirit medium from Ethiopia called Sam, who liked green olives but not black olives.
Yeah, that's the one.
Fraud. Never.
Poor Yvette Fielding. She was on that haunted show listening to that tripe the whole time and she was believing all of it.
Man, I'd have a lot of time for Derek Acora, even though he is dead now.
He is dead.
That's not going to stop him.
No, that's not going to stop him, no.
So yeah, that's spiritualism. Do you know where spiritualism comes from?
I actually have no idea.
Where it comes from it is a fraud from its very foundations.
Of course it is.
A couple of sisters called Kate and Maggie Fox in New York State in 1848 got bored one evening and decided to tie an apple to a string and bounce it off the floorboards.
Okay.
And their mum, who is apparently an idiot, thought that this was a ghost. And the reason why she thought it was a ghost is because Maggie Fox later said that she thought we were too stupid to be able to pull off any kind of trick, including tying an apple to a string.
just are they from the Isle of Man?
So the mum gets spooked and she calls in the neighbours, and the neighbours go, yeah, you probably got a ghost. Somebody probably did a murder in this house. And then word starts to spread, and the Fox sisters, Kate and Maggie Fox, realise, hang on a minute, we've got a career here. And their career comes in the form of, they move on from the apple on a string trick, because you can't really do that in front of a live audience. And
no, that's pretty obvious after a while.
Instead, what they do is they wear massive dresses that cover their feet and cover their knees, and they either click their toe joints, like how you can crack your knuckles, do that with their toe joints, or they just knock on a table with their knee from underneath. And the way they get away with it is they just simply refuse to let anybody investigate them.
Oh, right.
They just say, no, we're not going to do this without our dresses on because we're women, and that would be unfeminine.
And did people lap that up? I imagine they did.
They ate it up like a dog eating its own sick. They loved it. Yeah. But loads of kind of physicians and skeptics were looking at them and going, she is just knocking on the table here. Literally all she's doing. There's no ghosts. But the normal, the hoi polloi, the regular population, they flipping loved it.
Oh, yeah, it's like this, you get these medium readings that people go to so that they can speak to their like dead mother or something like that. And it's just, I've watched a few shows of it, but it's just this kind of a cold reading is actually what it is. And it's just trying to pick up on little nuances or sort of very vague open questions that most people can relate to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of how you do it, I think. But I think it is a genuine skill actually to do something like that. But it also is not speaking to your dead mum.
It's not. No, it's manipulating someone.
Exactly.
For money. Yeah, very much so.
Oh God, when you put it like that, it is a fraud.
There is, like, obviously there is a valuable case for talking through your grief with someone. Don't spend hundreds of pounds on it.
No.
With some bleached, toothed, gross 60-year-old who's claiming that he's talking to Sam, the Ethiopian woman, for example. No, if you really want to talk to dead people, just read a book.
That is very true. How poignant, how wise.
Spooky.
Okay, main part, Will. And we're going. My main part is in 3 sections.
Okay, because so you've dismembered it like a corpse.
But yes, exactly. Spooky. Yeah, and we're going to put it together because I have got a pumpkin theory.
Okay, do you need like a cream for that or something from the doctor?
Okay, maybe one day. Actually, I don't know. But actually, you can see I've just put my notes down because the first thing we are going to talk about is I need to set this up the audience with a little bit of geographical theory.
Okay,
which I don't know if
that is frightening.
That is frightening. That's going to scare a couple of people away. Okay, so have you heard of anything called positive feedback loops?
Yes. I couldn't define it for you, but I've heard of it. Okay,
so a positive feedback loop. I want you to imagine that you have a microphone like we have in front of us now, but we have no output actually. It's just been recorded into the computer. But if you're at a rock concert and you have a microphone and you put that in front of the speaker, you get that really horrible, loud squealing noise because obviously the noise goes into the microphone, which goes back out the speaker and it perpetuates and keeps going and going and getting louder and louder and louder. As it gets louder, it goes into the microphone even louder and so on, and it amplifies
itself.
Yeah, and gets extremely loud. So that is an example of a positive feedback loop.
Right.
So it's something which amplifies a particular force or an effect or a process. You with me so far?
I am, but I'm not spooked.
Okay, right. We'll get there. Okay. Now we're going to link it to that. So that idea also appears in climate. So we have...
now I'm really spooked.
Now, yeah, right. So now we get to the real stuff. But in our climate, we have positive feedback loops whereby... accelerated global warming can occur because of positive feedback loops.
Right.
So there are a couple of examples I can give. So for example, we know that, when we have solar radiation, so sunlight going through the Earth's atmosphere, when it hits the ice is white. It reflects off of the ice because it's called the albedo effect, which I think is a really cool name.
That's a cool name.
and that reflects back into space and doesn't heat the Earth.
Right.
However, the ocean below it is blue, and there are lots of exposed oceans around the Earth. When the sunlight comes in, it's absorbed by the ocean because it's a darker surface. Therefore, the ocean warms up. When the ocean warms up, the ice starts to melt. That means there's less ice for the sun to be reflected back into the atmosphere, and more is absorbed by the Earth. It gets warmer, more ice melts, and so on and so on and so on until you've got no ice left on the Earth, and it's just a big ocean warming up. It's amplified. It's the process. It amplified the climate forcing, as it were. So, the other example you could say is where you have methane deposits in the ground, particularly under permafrost, permanently frozen ground, and then when the heat warms that up from the solar radiation again, it thaws the permafrost, releasing methane. That's a greenhouse gas that accelerates the climate of global warming. Therefore, it warms up even more, melting more permafrost, releasing more methane. And that's another positive feedback loop that exists within climate, which is actually quite terrifying.
Yeah, I was kind of after like fairy and goblin stories here.
No, we went full theory.
No, okay, we're going apocalypse.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But we also what we need to remember, these are natural occurrences in our, and that's why our Earth goes through these cycles of warming and cooling periods because of these natural cycles. There is a negative feedback loop which nullifies everything as well. We see that in food chains quite a lot when there's lots of rabbits and not much grass, and then there's not much grass, so lots of rabbits died, and the grass grows back. When the grass goes back, there's more rabbits now because there's more food, and that just keeps cycling on and on and on. That's a nullifying effect, and that's a negative feedback loop. So they always exist within the globe anyway, in all ecosystems and the way it's all connected together. Obviously, humans are really making that worse. And that's what we're going to kind of go on to now, which is great, right? So my next question is, what do you do with your pumpkins when you finish with them after Halloween?
Ooh, eat the innards, normally in a kind of pasta type deal. And then the outards, we don't really have a food disposal here. So in the UK, I would have composted them, but here, bin them.
Yeah. So what I'm very happy to hear actually is that you don't try to food waste it so much. You try to use it in its form to try and eat it.
Yeah.
Which is what you should do. But you'd probably be unsurprised to hear your very last suggestion was to bin the rest of it, or to bin it, is what the majority of people in the UK and the United States tend to do. So to put a little bit of value on this, the Atlantic, the journalist people, they published and said that it's estimated that over 1 billion pounds, so that's the weight of pumpkin, are left to rot in landfills each year in the US. That's a lot. And
that is a huge amount of pumpkin.
And what really gets me of this, that's 30.3 million tons of food waste to begin with. And in the UK, 8 million pumpkins are thrown out in the UK in 2021. That was the last stat, actually.
Wow.
Which is like, what I can't understand about this really is, firstly, how do people not know how to use a pumpkin for food? That really baffles me. That really baffles me.
It's not hard.
But it's not hard at all. But secondly, like, it's like buying lots of apples and then throwing them away, like put for decoration for a bit and then chuck them out.
Yeah.
Or if you really want to take a sweet tooth approach, it's like buying loads of Bourbon biscuits, making a Stonehenge out of it and then throwing them away.
Chucking it away.
Yeah.
Which Bourbon Stonehenge is an intriguing idea.
You know, I don't know why I came up with that. I literally just thought of that now.
But chucking it away is worrying. You want to, of course, eat the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's something which is a huge problem because when they're left to rot in landfills, we've already mentioned the gas, but they produce significant amounts of methane when they rot. They're saying what comes out of cow farts. It's that stuff. And the thing with methane is that people always talk about carbon dioxide going to the atmosphere and that being a huge problem, which it is a huge problem. However, methane as a greenhouse gas is 20 times more effective at reflecting heat back to our Earth than a carbon dioxide particle.
Right.
So you need 20 methane particles to every one carbon dioxide particle. So it's much worse. I think the worst one is like CFCs, carbofluorocarbons that come out of spray cans, which are 120 times more effective at reflecting heat back to Earth. That's the worst one.
Quite a lot.
That's quite a lot. So your aerosol, if you use a spray on aerosol and you buy those, unfortunately they have them in it. So maybe go to a roll-on. I don't know, is my advice. But then pumpkins, when they rot, they produce methane. And it's, I've got them. It's 25 times more. This is what the Atlantic says. I thought it was 20, somewhere between 20 and 25 more effective at reflecting greenhouse gas emissions back to Earth. So it's a huge problem. And as we know with the greenhouse effect, I mean, I'm going to quickly summarize the greenhouse effect. I mean, maybe, or should I test you? What do you know about the greenhouse effect?
It's like a greenhouse, isn't it? Put tomatoes in it, they warm up.
It's like a greenhouse.
Something like that.
It is.
Well, it's the more kind of particles, greenhouse particles or molecules that we emit into the atmosphere creates kind of a blanket around the world.
Yes.
And we're giving ourselves a big Dutch oven.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's pretty much it. So the other one of the biggest misconception corner again is that people think global warming is to do with the ozone layer and that being open. Yeah, it's a problem.
So that's just another horrific way we're trying to destroy ourselves.
Exactly. It hovers about a big ozone layer hovers around France, actually. There's quite a big hole there. It's repairing, actually. But that only contributes to increased amount of ultraviolet rays. So you get burned. But the global warming effect is basically having all these particles released in the atmosphere. They create a blanket which is reflected once again once the sun has gone through it. The problem is a methane and a carbon dioxide particle. When the sun brings a sunlight ray through to the Earth, it goes through that particle.
Right.
unfortunately, because it's long wave radiation.
Right.
When it hits the ground and reflects back up, it's shortwave radiation and then can reflect back off of a particle.
Right.
So it's one way in but can't get out.
Okay, because I always thought it was heating up the particles like heating up the duvet from the outside, but it's not.
No.
It's trapping the radiation.
It's trapping the heat down below.
Well, that's substantially worse.
It is substantially worse. And the problem is, if we have rotting billions of pounds and 8.8 billion a year rotting pumpkins releasing significant amounts of methane, it is contributing so much to the greenhouse gas emissions. And as we know, with increased greenhouse gas emissions, climate change has an impact. And one of the biggest threats or biggest impacts of climate change, is firstly, we would have increased rainfall in some areas. There'll be some increased sea level rise. But the one I want to talk about is increased levels of drought, which happens. We've just come out of a huge heat wave over the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting.
Come out?
Well,
you say that. It's still not far off shorts weather here.
No.
On the 31st of October.
No, and what's it? Yeah, it was 24 degrees, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is out of unprecedented, I think. But this idea of drought is why my last section of my pumpkin theory comes in. So I've got a pumpkin theory now. In the summer, there was an article that was published, I'm sad to say, by, sad to say by, oh no, I changed it because it was The Sun to begin with. I can't do it. I've got to find the same idea from somewhere else.
The Sun. Thank you.
So I got it from The Guardian instead.
Okay, that's much more up our alley.
Right. Yeah. So there is the article was UK faces pumpkin shortage at Halloween after summer of heat waves.
Okay. Well, that's kind of good news though. Because that's like the rabbits have eaten too much grass. Yeah,
so you could actually see it as a nullifying effect, which is why I talked about the positive feedback loop, because I want to link it back to that. But one of the big problems is that there's a farmer called, I love this farmer's name, Guy French. That's a good name, isn't it? That's a cool name. He runs Folks' farm with his wife, Emily, and they've said that the drought has had a knock-on effect on yield of their pumpkins. And the quality of pumpkin is good, but there's just not many of them. And the volume of them has really declined. So that puts a real strain on people wanting to have pumpkins at Halloween, which you could argue and say, well, that's good because that means less rotting in landfills. But actually, the real problem here is that this guy and his Guy French, he's lost a significant amount of income from this, and also a lot of his farmland is unarable, because of the drought. That's because potentially of the pumpkins that he's sold in the previous year. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of self-perpetuating in that sense. And it's not just that alone. I totally understand that, but it's a contributing
small piece
factor.
of the jigsaw. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of where I was leading on to with this was it's this huge kind of this knock-on effect of people selling pumpkins and then people throwing them out, therefore releasing methane gas, therefore causing drought, meaning there are less pumpkins in the next year. But the thing is, you could say, it's just pumpkins though, that's fine. But actually, the biggest thing is a lot of pumpkins in farms, they use all that space for pumpkin growth because it's a very popular commodity to buy at that time of year. And actually, because of that, a lot of it isn't technically for food because people don't use the pumpkin after for food. They use it just to throw away. So technically what that means is he's growing a produce which is not for food. He's growing it for non-food. So he's growing it for something. Biofuels, for example, is another example of that where you grow it not for food, it's for something else. But this is literally just for entertainment or decoration.
Yeah. It's like growing holly for Christmas wreaths or something.
Exactly that. And so as a result of that space that's not being used for general food consumption or calorie consumption. And then the fact that they're be rotting and causing a drought, which means you can't use that space at all anymore for food consumption, is really worrying. Which is, sorry if this has got really gloomy, but it is Halloween after all.
It is Halloween, it's spooky time.
But I do want to kind of end on a little bit of hope, because in my number time, we're going to link what we can do with pumpkins and what people do with pumpkins.
Excellent. You got some recipes.
Yeah, well, not actually one recipe, but actually there's a lot more things people do with pumpkins which might surprise you.
And on that note... Right. Ghouls, demons, villains. That's what I'm talking about today.
Okay.
And start off with some modern ghouls. Elon Musk, Kanye West, Facebook. We all love a good fall from grace, don't we?
Absolutely.
I've been particularly enjoying Kanye West's Fall from Grace because it's so funny. Like 6 months ago, billionaire fashion designer, now literally being escorted out of buildings. Brilliant.
That's brilliant. There's something where if there's someone that's got to fame that you don't like and then they fall back down again, there's something
it's very good,
satisfying about that.
And like with Facebook in particular, it feels like in the third Lord of the Rings film where they start killing the massive elephants, just the whole thing's coming down. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Falls from grace is what I'm talking about today. And I'm going to tell you about one spectacular fall from grace from
I'm
a knight
excited by this.
Called Gilles de Rais, who is French, as you can guess.
Yeah.
I would argue that no one really has ever fallen from grace quite so far and quite so fast as Monsieur Gilles de Rais. Let me tell you why.
This is so exciting.
The height of his life came in the 1420s. When he was France's hero. He was leading battles. He was the kind of idiot who would charge head on into the English and doesn't care if he dies and slaughters about 50 people whilst everyone else is looking around going, ooh la la, that's a bit dangerous. And he was so renowned that he was given the title of a Marshal of France, which is given to like 20 people every 100 years. It's super, super rare. And he was leading battles with Joan of Arc. He was like Joan of Arc's right-hand man. He's a serious hero of history. And he could, if he wanted to, have retired in about 1430 to a nice life of just hunting, feasting, and just living large.
That sounds brilliant.
Amounts of money.
I'm assuming he didn't do that.
Well, the trouble is, he had the unfortunate personality trait of being absolutely mental.
Oh, yeah.
And the first way in which his mental decided to appear was he wrote a play, and the play was called The Mystery of the Siege of Orleans. Okay. And this play is 20,000 lines long. Now, to put that into context, Hamlet, which is Shakespeare's longest play, is 4,000 lines long.
Oh my God.
Hamlet takes 4 hours to play. This play is 5 times as long as that.
So you've got to book a hotel, come back,
exactly.
take your sleeping bag.
This is a full day thing. And he knows it's a full day thing because when he puts it on, he pays for all the food and drink for everyone there. So they can just sit there for literally the entire day watching his play. It had 140 speaking parts. It had 500 extras. It had 600 different costumes. And every night he put it on, they had to remake the costumes. Why? Because he's mental.
Because he's mental. I was about to say, it's not like a Gaps in Knowledge episode until the costumes bit.
And trouble is, this costs a lot of money.
Of course.
So he has to sell all of his estates, all of his castles, all of his money that he earned from fighting the English in the 100 Years' War. Sells all of it except for 2. But that doesn't bloody stop him. By the way, the play was crap.
I was about to say, he must be pretty confident in his own ability with this play. Confidence
and mental illness go hand in hand, Rhys.
They do, don't they? You're right.
Very closely aligned.
Yeah.
Yes. So once the play was over, his family realized if he does this again, then we are done. We are just paupers. We have no money. So they get the king. And the king of France, Charles VII, goes to Gilles de Rais and he says, you need to stop this. In fact, no, I'm going to make you stop this. You are no longer allowed by law to sell any more of your houses. As banned. If anybody tries to buy a house off you, then they go to prison.
Oh my God.
Similarly, you're not allowed to enter into contract with anybody. You just cannot sign contracts anymore. You're banned from signing contracts. So
I love that law.
It's good, isn't it?
What a law
just
that is. Someone that you
person.
can't sell your assets. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's illegal for you. So, but what I like about it is rather than it being if you try to sell yours, you'll go to prison, it's the person who's trying to buy it will go to prison.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's their fault for going near you.
Yeah.
So no one was allowed to enter into business with him. He had very little money, but he has still this great hunger for power and glory because he was France's great hero. We're talking like Horatio Nelson or Arthur Wellington. It's like a serious hero of France. So his Amdram dream may well be over, but he has more niche pursuits that he's going to pursue.
Okay.
In 1438, he starts putting out messages to ask for court alchemists and demon summoners to come to his castle.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. He's mental.
Well,
That's the next step.
Yeah.
This is why you can't trust anybody who does amateur dramatics, by the way, because they're one step away from alchemy.
Right.
And demon summoning. So he spends huge amounts of gold on demon summoners because they're just going to ignore the law because they're summoning demons.
Yeah.
Like, they're already going to prison. So he sets up a kind of demon summoning pentagram in his basement. And, the classic kind of barrier of sand that the demon can't cross and runes and everything like that. And the big pentagram on the floor. And he tries it once and nothing happens. And he tries it twice and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Third time, nothing happens.
Oh, really? Even the third time?
Even the third time.
Oh, I was expecting something, but no.
No. So he decides the sensible conclusion would, of course, be, this is bonkers. I'm going to go and get a proper job.
Yeah, that would be the wise decision to make, but we know that he's mental.
The Gilles de Rais solution is, why not get some body parts of innocent children and see if that does the job?
Sorry, what?
I mean, the logic is clear, surely.
I just need to iron it out.
You can't summon a demon, so you need the blood of the innocent.
That's fair. But actually, do you know what? Has some weighting.
Pure blood.
See the pragmatism in it.
Pure blood. So, first child that we know for sure that he murdered was a 12-year-old apprentice from the local village.
Awesome. Absolutely.
And the way that he did it was he sent down to it was a furrier, a guy who deals with furs, I think, sent down to him and said, can I borrow your apprentice? I need to send a message off to another village. So the apprentice goes up and enters the gates and is simply never heard from again.
Oh.
And more and more local children start disappearing, and then children from a bit further away start disappearing, and then children from all over France start disappearing.
Oh, Jesus.
But nobody really knows where they're going. I mean, it's medieval Europe. People die in accidents all the time. They could have drowned in a bog. They could have suffered a broken leg in the forest and just died there. Nobody.
I remember you talk about medieval Europe being an absolute dreadful place to live, and anything, your life is always at risk.
It's like camping, but you don't go home at the end.
Oh, God.
It's just miserable. But the problem is, Gilles makes quite a crucial mistake. In 1440, so about 2 years after the summoning rituals, he gets a bit reckless and he gets into an argument with a priest. And we've all been there. You've been in an argument with your local priest.
Yeah, of course.
What you normally do is just leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's because you're not Gilles de Rais. What Gilles de Rais does is he kidnaps the priest and starts torturing him. Now, you can kidnap children. Kidnapping children, absolutely fine. You can, do you know what? You can quote me on that. Kidnapping children, it's all good.
Yeah, fine. Just snip that there. Anyone ever want to use that line and can use it in evidence or whatever. But make sure you include this bit in the evidence. What you mustn't do is kidnap priests. No.
That's bad.
Whoa, yeah. That's one step too far.
Yeah, because then the church come after you, and that's exactly what happened.
You don't want that to happen.
You do not want that to happen. Absolutely not. So the Catholic Church send all their might against Gilles de Rais, and they take him to prison, they put him on trial, and what that means is they torture the absolute shit out of him.
Right.
And as they torture him, they get information about what the hell has been going on this whole time.
I just want to, has he been doing this operation alone?
No.
Aha.
Not at all. What has happened is, in his big castle, which is in the middle of nowhere, far away from the local villages, it is that spooky haunted castle on the hill that you're thinking of.
Right.
That's the one.
The one that when you don't go near it, just don't go near that castle.
It's like it's etched in our DNA. Do not go near this castle because this guy's in it. Well, here's why you don't go near that castle. Gilles would dress them up. The boys and girls that he kidnapped, it was almost always boys, but sometimes girls as well. He would dress them up in the finest clothes, the finest furs and kind of gold lace and fancy clothes. And then they'd have a great big feast, a huge feast with all the food and all the wine and all the hippocras, which is mulled wine.
Oh, wow.
That the kids could take.
It sounds splendid.
Yep.
So far.
And then, and if you put yourselves into the mind of this child, like imagine you're this little apprentice boy who you live in a hut. It's like a wooden hut, maybe some stone walls, but it's freezing cold in there. There's one room. It's stinking. It's dirty. The food you eat is almost always bread. You can never wash your hands, so the bread's always covered in mud. It's a really miserable life. It's camping.
Yeah, that is camping.
Now you get a feast. It's like going to Little Chef after going camping.
Yes, on the way back down
it's
on the M2. You just pop over.
Exactly. It's a taste of heaven. And Gilles knew this, and he enjoyed seeing their faces light up. And then he would say to them, do you want to go on the tour of the castle? Let me show you around the castle. It's an incredible place. I love it. And the kid, who is pissed, don't forget, he's full of wine.
He's on the wine.
We've got a drunk 12-year-old on our hands here. Yeah. He would, of course, go along, and they would kind of wander around the castle and look in the great halls and look in the chapel, and then they go up into the tower. And Gilles would follow them into the tower, and he would take particular pleasure in opening the door behind the child and seeing the child's face go from a massive grin to a look of absolute horror, because at the top of the tower was a torture chamber.
Oh, no.
And it is the torture chamber that you are imagining. Cold stone walls, cold stone floors, blood everywhere.
That's exactly, you're describing my mind's eye image. Ropes, there of that.
Hooks,
the
knives, butcher's sets, aprons, the lot. It is the torture chamber of your nightmares.
Oh, God.
For sure. And what he would do is, in this torture chamber would be his accomplices, who were a couple of his most trusted servants. Most of the servants weren't allowed up in this tower, but 2 or 3 were. And those servants would grab the child, and they would strip the child naked. They'd hang him up by ropes. They'd sexually abuse them in the most horrific ways. And then they'd murder them. And the way they'd murder them would be a horrific way, by dismemberment, by decapitation, that kind of thing.
That's awful.
Really, really nasty. And in his own confession, when he was put on trial, Gilles stated, when the children were dead, he would kiss them, and those who had the most handsome limbs and heads, he would hold them up to admire them. You can picture him like holding up the child's head by its hair, twisting it in the light to look into its dead eyes. He had their bodies cruelly cut open and took delight at the sight of their inner organs. And at this point, I'm realizing I probably should have warned the listeners not to eat during this bit of the episode.
That's very good. I was just thinking this took, it was dark as it was. As soon as we entered the torture chamber. Well, even then, I'm like, maybe it's sort of slightly heavy, but no, we went full whack.
We're going straight down to the depths of hell here. Just as a fair warning, my number time is substantially worse. So anyway, the rest of that quote was...
I'm going to need a shower after this one.
Very often when the children were dying, he would sit on their stomachs and take pleasure in watching them die.
This guy's... The madness is not... That's light. That's generous to say he's mad.
Amateur dramatics, I'm telling you. Don't trust him. You can't trust him.
It's that... I can see why he thought his play was excellent.
Yeah. So the bodies were burnt and the ashes were scattered into the moat, and so very few remains were ever found. We don't know how many people he killed. Certainly over 100. Somewhere between 100 and 200 for sure. Some people say anywhere near as many as 600.
That's insane.
One of the most prolific serial killers ever. This guy, Gilles de Rais. And they were almost all boys, and they were all between the ages of 6 to 18.
Jesus.
And the justice that he got was he was sentenced to death, and he was burned and hanged at the same time.
Double whammy.
Which I kind of like.
Yeah, I think that's the least that they could do.
Yeah, the death sentence is kind of final. You can't make it worse. But burning and hanging someone, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, do that. I think... Yeah, if that was put to a vote at all of France, I think 100%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So in terms of kind of falls from grace of a great hero,
that's going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Like literally one extreme to the other. An absolute hero of a whole nation to an absolute prick, twat, murdering serial killer, moron, madhead.
And if you see it in the eyes of the people at the time, he was talking with Joan of Arc, who talked to God. That was her whole deal.
Well, exactly.
She literally talked to God.
He had a line to his line
direct
manager was
line
God.
to the boss. Yeah. And then he turns into the devil.
Jesus.
It's a hell of a story.
Yeah. Man. I don't know what to do with that information now, but it's going to stick with me for a very, very long time.
You're welcome.
Happy Halloween. My poor old grand's going to listen to that.
It's going to get worse.
Oh dear. Oh well.
Those just, do you know what? Rhys's grand, just stop listening now.
Yeah. Well, no. Stop listening after my number time because you get some ideas what to do with pumpkins.
That's true. That's a good point.
Okay, so shall we jump straight into number time? Mm-hmm. So my number is 2,359.
Mm-hmm.
And I put the clue as pumpkin.
Right. 2359 seeds in a pumpkin.
Oh, that's it. Oh, it's not. That's a really cool.
Okay.
I didn't even think that was possible. Not. Yeah, no, it's not that.
No, that's
somehow you've thrown me there. I couldn't think of any way to put a number in that together apart from the real answer. And you found the way. That would be a lot of seeds though.
That would be a lot of seeds, and it would also be a very oddly specific number of seeds.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Every single pumpkin to have the same number of seeds.
It would be, yeah. But it's not, therefore that's not the answer.
No, that is nonsense.
So would you want the extra clue?
Yeah.
So the extra clue is consumption.
Okay. Do you know what? I'm talking about consumption in my number time, but I think it's a different kind of consumption that I'm going to be telling you about. Stop listening then, Rhys's nan. 2359 pumpkins are consumed every minute on the 31st of October.
That's well, based on my last one, they're probably not. But
they're probably not. They're thrown away every
they're thrown
minute.
away. It's not the answer, but actually, in an average sized pumpkin, and out of all pumpkins of the average size, I think it's like a kilo or something. Or no, 5 kilos or something like that. They're quite heavy. It contains 2,359 calories.
Okay. Huh. Now that's right. Now, of course, my immediate thought was that's about a day's worth of calories. Yeah, so that's a miserable day's worth of calories.
It's a miserable day's worth of calories. You've just eaten the whole pumpkin. Yeah. That's it. You just cut the top off the stalk bit and you just get a spoon and you just go for it.
That sounds like something they do on the Isle of Man.
It probably is.
Eat it silently.
In silence.
And then you see the person who'll kill you or something.
Yeah. And when you eat it, whatever the letters at the bottom of the pumpkin you've made by accident is the first name of your future spouse.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. Well, I want to go to the Isle of Man on Halloween now, or hop-tu-naa. I've got to get that right.
Hop-tu-naa. Yeah.
No, but the reason I say it is because we're talking about ways in which you could use pumpkins after that you've used them for Halloween.
I'm talking about dismembering children.
Jesus,
I've got a different tone to this episode.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking that actually. I thought I was quite bad with global warming and the end of food for everyone in the UK and the world beyond. And
I was just told to bring the spook.
Yeah,
I brought the spook. You brought the spoon. I brought the spook.
That's it. I'm still gobsmacked by your.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Traumatized by your one. It's putting me off balance. But then that's what history's about.
Exactly.
Okay. So
consuming pumpkins.
So consuming. Yeah. What do you do with your? How would you make a pumpkin? How would you make a pumpkin? No. How would you use
when a mummy pumpkin and a daddy pumpkin love each other very much?
Yes.
No, roast it normally. Roast it and then blend it to make a sauce.
Yeah.
And then use that on pasta and stuff.
That's actually really delicious if you do that.
Yeah. Super simple, like bit of olive oil, roast it for 50 minutes in the oven, bada bing, bada boom.
Perfect. Yeah. So you have an idea of what you do with pumpkins, but so you can roast the seeds, you can make soups, you can put them in pies, pumpkin pie is quite a popular one. But there are other ways in which people around the world have disposed of their pumpkins in interesting ways, but fun and interesting ways.
Oh, God.
So would you like to hear some?
Of course I would.
So firstly, actually, this is a simple one in that people should be using the seeds, the what you thought were 2,000 or so inside a pumpkin. You can actually grow your own pumpkins. Well, if you have arable land near you, there's nothing stopping you.
Right.
There's nothing stopping you trying to grow pumpkins, but people have them there.
That's true. It's not like the CIA going to come barge in and shoot you. It's not bananas in Guatemala.
No, right. It's just come rushing in. You can't be growing pumpkins here. This is. Can you imagine the espionage behind that? Just
secret pumpkin growers with massive coats.
Yeah,
opening it up and they got a huge Hokkaido under there.
They're in the pumpkin department of the CIA. They're dressed in orange or something like that. Anyway, we diverge a little bit there. But yeah, one of the easy ones is you could grow the pumpkin seeds and then left for the pumpkins. So what do you do with the pumpkins? So This is all America, by the way.
Of course.
To be clear. In Illinois, the recycling and composting non-profit organization called Scarce, they host a one-day pumpkin collection after Halloween, which is quite good. And they collect from 31 sites, and they collect them from churches, libraries, schools, and parks, and so on. And they save about 254 tons of pumpkins from landfills. And then what they say, you can also, because they have water content, you can. Because they're recycled and composted back into the soil, you save about 12,000 gallons of water. I realise I'm using the American unit.
I have no idea what that is.
No, nor do I.
Is a gallon like 4 pints, I think?
Something like that.
So about 2 litres.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was about to say someone will correct us, but they probably won't.
Nobody knows.
I actually don't know.
Nobody knows.
But this is quite a good one. So they have, there's an actual way, a non-charitable organisation that do this, and they go and collect all pumpkins and save quite a lot, which is quite good. And then they put them back into the soil. It's nice.
Nice.
In Tucson, in Arizona. Is that you say Tuscan, but they say Tucson, don't they?
Yeah,
Tucson, Arizona. Residents enjoy the spectacle of pumpkins getting flung into the air via giant slings.
Okay. Right. That's a very simple form of entertainment, but I'm on board with it.
I think if I saw that, I'd be like, this is firstly very American. Secondly, that's brilliant. I'm staying here for it. And thirdly, I shouldn't be enjoying this, but hell I am.
You are. It's like a wet firework. That's great.
Absolutely, like a wet fire. Yeah, and I could. Ooh. That's exactly what that
then
is.
you have to have someone to shoot it at the top. But it's America.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's one way. And then I think when it lands, they put it in a field where it just decomposes and goes back into the soil.
Right.
So that's, make arable land by flinging pumpkins in the air.
That is an excuse for making a mess.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm putting it back in the soil. No, you're not. You smash your watermelon with a hammer. Yeah, it's going in the soil, isn't it?
I mean, you can't argue with that logic. It's just, it's a Top Gear way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it also happens in Newton, Massachusetts, but they use pumpkins for baseball and target practice. So shooting it with guns.
Right.
And hitting it.
Hitting with a baseball bat, not trying to throw it. Like trying to pitch a pumpkin. That's what I was kind of imagining. Like maybe a smaller squash-sized pumpkin.
But throwing a full-size 5-kilo pumpkin.
Yeah.
Just pitching it at them.
Good arm practice. Yeah. Get a strong arm.
Get some curve on that. I feel the big gloves you need if you're going to play that game. Okay.
Big wipe-down gloves.
Yeah. So that again, very American way of disposing of pumpkins.
Absolutely.
That's a brand new sentence, I think. When Hudson Rivers Park, so Hudson Rivers in New York, community compost program, which is a brilliant name.
That is.
It's very literal. Held its first pumpkin smashing event last year in New York City. And it's because it's pumpkin smashing pumpkins.
Of course it is, yeah.
I hope that's what they were playing. Of course.
Just really maudlin 90s music whilst you take a bat to a pumpkin.
Absolutely. 500 people, to be exact. Breaking down 1,000 pounds worth of organic waste.
Wow.
Exactly what they were doing.
That is very strange.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other way in Washington, D.C. is something called a compost cab, which I quite like, the compost cab. And in 2008, it collected 5 tons of pumpkins, 3,000 pounds of which went to hunger fighting groups. So it was a collection for reuse for actual making food, which is good. Which is great, actually. That's a good one. Not saying the others aren't, but this actually starving people. Let's give us some food that's free at the moment.
No, that is a little bit better than just wailing on it with a baseball bat, to be fair. Nobody's really gaining from that.
No. It's the 2,359 calories are being wasted, also being put back into the ground again.
Yeah. Which is a metaphor. As a euphemism.
Yeah. But it's not. It's not the long term thought there, is it? It's just let's hit it with a baseball bat as quickly as we can.
Yeah, it's
smash it up.
Angry society doing whatever it can.
Maybe it's good therapeutic sort of activity.
Do you know what? If that's your therapy, then I guess fine. I guess
if it stops you hitting people with baseball bats,
yeah.
I mean that might be a good thing. I'm sure it is a good thing.
No, let's hedge our bets here. Maybe sometimes hitting people with baseball bats can be beneficial.
Yeah, maybe the guy you just spoke about last time.
Gilles de Rais, exactly.
Yeah. There was also the same group, the Compost Cab. They run classes about how to educate families and children on how to cook pumpkins.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Which is nice, but I suppose it's good to raise awareness of not to throw them away. But I wonder how many people in America actually know pumpkin is a food. Genuinely,
I know what you mean.
See, I reckon people genuinely don't realise it's a lot of. I'm sure most people do, but there would be a small percentage who don't realise that it's a food thing.
But even if they do, how do you get the food out of it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's quite challenging.
Not straightforward. Yeah, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
but only in the same way that, like, to use stairs, you have to know what you're doing.
That is true.
Like,
because
it's not that hard.
No, and once you know how to use it once, that's it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Pumpkin, the stairs of the squash fantasy.
But I was just thinking, if they don't know how to do it, they should go to New York with a hint of baseball bats. Because you can access
how you get
it
the food
that
out
way.
of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, was it the stairs of squash fruit?
Yeah, I'm a little bit obsessed whenever we go to the UK. They don't have them in Germany much, but you know the kind of the tagline for fruit and veg, like blueberries, refreshing and succulent.
Oh yeah,
Who comes up with those?
That's someone's job, isn't it? It's like naming hurricanes.
Yeah,
which is a real job, by the way.
Well, weird, very strange.
Yeah, but yeah. Like,
strawberries, succulent and delicious. It's always the same 3 words.
Yeah, just various orders of different fruits attached to it. It's an easy job, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And you just want someone, if it's on an advert, someone with a very pretty voice just to read it out and quite, obsequiously read them
the
out.
Stairs of squash.
We sent millions. Well, I hope, but no, they won't actually.
No, they won't because they don't exist anymore.
No, exactly.
Because we smashed too many of them.
The last one, which I have here, which is there's one organisation in Montana, Missoula. Typical American names, so annoying. Missoula, Montana, and Little Rock, Arkansas. What they do, I know they're 2 different places, by the way, but they do these things in these places, and that is they go in and collect all of the pumpkins and they give them to local zoos for food.
Nice.
Which is quite cool.
Give them to the zoos.
Yeah. So, and for other local farms, so animals can eat them.
Excellent.
So there's lots of little ways in which you can try and get rid of your pumpkins. So I just want to, before we go into Will's monstrosity number time, which I don't know what it's about yet, but I'm terrified. Just think about what you're doing with your pumpkins after you celebrate Halloween, please. And if you happen to be listening in July, still think about it, please.
About it. Yeah. Speaking of those American names, I was watching some American football day before yesterday. Came across 2 of the most remarkable names.
Oh, go on.
One was something like Latavius Brains. A fantastic name.
What? That's the name of a player?
Yeah. Latavius Brains.
Latavius Brains?
Yeah. Great name. And then one of the big fat kind of 6'8", 300-pound monsters were called Tank Bigsby. Yes, I want to call my child Tank, please. And he is going to be a monster.
Well, that works.
Tank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby. That's some corking names.
I do love the Americans sometimes.
That is
They're very American.
But it's their own. I still think it's amazing they speak our language or the same language as us, and they
definitely don't speak our language.
No, they don't speak our language, but culturally. It's so
very
different.
Strange. I think they have no idea what they're doing, but bloody hell are they going to do it?
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's great.
Bigger is better all the time.
Absolutely. Tank Bigsbyism.
Yeah.
It's great.
Tank Bigsbyism. Let's coin that phrase. I'm happy with that one.
Well, if only we could leave the episode on such a high note, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm about to ruin your days. Genuinely, don't listen to this whilst you're eating. This is borderline, to be honest.
Okay, I'm terrified.
We may have to edit this out. Right, let me tell you the story of Count Carl Tanzler von Kostel.
His name alone
is a bad start, isn't it?
His name alone.
He was born in Dresden, which again is not making things
that's not
better.
Good reading.
In 1877. So we've kind of got a trifecta of shit.
This is Victorian era.
Yes.
Okay.
And he actually ends up in America. He moves to Florida in 1926 and he was a radiologist. So he worked in a hospital on x-rays.
Okay.
Now, where you think is going, that's like the Shire compared to the absolute pits of Mordor that we're going to.
God.
What you're thinking of.
What I'm thinking of is a particular event that happened in 1986 in Chernobyl is the first thing I thought of when you said that. And the poor Belarusian firefighters that were at the scene when the reactor exploded and skin going off their faces.
Those Belarusian firefighters, we're talking kind of like, that's like Bilbo's party. That's like a good bloody time compared to where we're going.
And that's one of the most disgusting things I've ever read.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so when he was a child, he dreamt that one of his ancestors, called the Countess Anna Constantia von Kossel, would come to him, and she would reveal to him the face of his true love. And he had this dream over and over again. He would see the face of his true love revealed in his dreams, and she was an exotic-looking, dark-haired woman, is the description. So kind of Italian, Spanish, that kind of thing. Now, he gets married, he has 2 children, he moves to Florida, and when he's working as a radiologist in Florida in 1930, he meets the woman literally of his dreams. She's called Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos, or Elena is what we'll call her.
Elena.
Unfortunately for him, she's also married. Double unfortunately for him, he met her at work. He works as a radiologist. She didn't work as a radiologist. She was a patient. She had really severe tuberculosis or consumption, which is why I mentioned it before.
Okay.
And in fact, she died only 18 months after they first met.
Oh, that's sad for him.
Sad.
Yeah.
Well, except they never had a relationship.
But I can see why if this is my dream girl, or what I think is my dream girl, I can see why that would be sad for him, because that's now just going to be a memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
Or is it?
Oh, no. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Oh, shit.
Seriously, people, stop eating. Tanzler, like a mental, paid for her funeral and paid for her mausoleum. Not her family, not her husband.
Okay.
He paid for it. And he would go there every single night to her mausoleum. What his wife and his 2 children made of all of this, by the way, we have no idea. Because by this point, they were living up the other end of Florida. So they were separated.
What's the other? Oh, I see, the other end of Florida, because
he's down in the south, they're up in the north.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So he's visiting her mausoleum every night. And one evening in 1933, about 18 months after she's died, he decides that visiting her grave isn't enough.
Okay.
He breaks in. He steals the corpse. He wheels it home in a little tiny toy truck. And he puts it in his bed. And because she's been dead for 18 months, this is your final warning, people. This is your final warning.
This is...
Because she's been dead for 18 months, he has to start putting her back together. And the way he does it is he gets some piano wire and uses that to string her bones back together because the ligaments have all rotted away.
I thought you were going to say to make a puppet out of her. Whoa!
Oh, Rhys. He's strung her bones back together, so they're not going to fall apart. Her eyes have obviously rotted away because she's been dead for 18 months.
Just
so
holes in her
fills
head.
them with glass eyes, so she's got glass eyes now. As the skin starts to rot off, he replaces it with plaster. And there is a photo of this that you can see on Wikipedia if you want to. Yep, it is frightening.
Okay.
Funnily enough.
It's Halloween. If there's any time of year to do it, it's now.
It's right now, yeah. And because her organs have rotted and her rib cage is empty, to stop that from collapsing, he fills her cavity, as it's called, with rags so that she's still got some kind of structure to her. As her hair fell out, he collected it all and made a wig, which he then put back on her body. And apparently he would buy huge amounts of perfume to cover up the stench.
I'm sure.
In the room, because she's dead. She's dead. Very firmly dead.
Anything rotten stinks.
Yes.
And just to stop you here now, my friends are police officers and all worked in the area, but I've also known one person who was a paramedic. And they have all described to me at least once what a smelling dead body is like. And they said, firstly, it's like something that's gone up your nose and trying to rip your brain out. But it is what they say. It's one of those smells which you think you'll be okay with, but you've never smelled anything like it before when it's something's rotten like that. And if you've never smelled it before, you can never imagine it. You have to experience it once and you never want to ever experience it again. So I can only imagine why he's bought tons of perfume.
Exactly. And it's the kind of thing that evolutionarily speaking, we are designed to find the most repulsive. Just shouldn't go near dead bodies. There's nothing good to be gained from going near dead bodies. It's just disease, essentially. Unless You'll count Carl Tanzler von Kostel, of course.
Of course. And
so he spends about 7 years sleeping with this dead body in his bed next to him. And in 1940, about 7 years later, his sister, Elena's sister, sorry, not his sister, but the sister of the woman, hears some rumors from the local area that his house smells terrible. And apparently late at night, he's been forgetting to close the curtains. And so the neighbors have heard him playing the organ, and then he'll put on a record, and they've seen him dancing through his bedroom.
Oh my.
With someone who doesn't look particularly alive over and over again. So she goes, fuck this, I'm getting the police.
Yeah,
and the police are sent in.
Probably a good idea.
Absolutely the correct thing to do. And they find the body of Elena in his bed 7 years later.
Oh, the bed itself, I just can't imagine.
It's not going to be good, is it?
Oh.
And he's arrested.
Of course.
Of course. He's not sent to prison, though. He's sent to a mental asylum.
Okay.
Because they decide first of all, the crime he's committed, desecrating a corpse, it doesn't carry that big of a sentence. And secondly, he's mental.
He's absolutely mental.
He's lost his marbles.
Is this the word exhuming a corpse? Is that the right word there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To exhume it is to take it out of the ground, and then to desecrate it is to mess about with it. Boy, has he messed about with it.
Really, he's playing the organ with it.
So let me give you a quick question. You are a 1940s American.
Okay.
You are the coroner, in fact, and you are in charge of deciding what to do with this body. Do you, A, bury it respectfully, or do you, B, earn a shitload of money by putting it on display for the locals?
America, capitalism, definitely the latter.
Correct. 7,000 people saw it within the first week of it being on display.
How many?
7,000. Yes.
How much did he charge?
Do you know, I didn't record that. Didn't find that out.
But he would have made some buck.
He would have made some money, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is the era of Mike the Headless Chicken, if you remember from that previous episode. So, like, we've got Netflix. They've got dancing corpses and headless chickens.
Of course, what's not to love? I think I would go and see it just because that's just mental. There's nothing ever like that.
That's the thing. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
But then so's like jumping in front of a train is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, that is also true.
So let me just ruin your day, though, because before they put the body on display, of course, they carry out an autopsy. And what they find is what I've told you already.
God, that might have happened.
Yep.
Okay.
The autopsy is carried out by loads of doctors for some reason, two of whom have decent names. Well, one's called Dr. Foraker, which is quite a good name.
That's cool.
The other one's called Dr. DePoo, which is a great name.
That's funny because he's got poo in his name.
Exactly. DePoo, Dr. DePoo. Hello, my name is Hank DePoo. Americans. Anyway, the reason why I tried to make you laugh, though, is because what I'm going to tell you is probably going to ruin your life. What they find is that in between her legs, he had inserted a tube, and that tube had shown much sign of use. Oh. Yes, he'd been having sex with the corpse.
So he was not narcoleptic.
Not narcoleptic.
Not narcoleptic. What's it?
Necrophiliac.
Necrophiliac.
He was almost certainly a necrophiliac.
Necrophiliac. Yes. Oh my God.
For 7 years.
Oh.
A nice dance tonight, Elena, shall we? Ooh, don't mind if I do. To bed, shall we, Elena? Ooh, don't mind if I do.
Oh my God.
For 7 years.
I've just, in my mind's eye, I've got a lot of, that's never going to escape me, ever.
Good. Because it's never escaped me, and now I want to give you the brainworms that I've got.
God, I suppose it's only fair.
There's a little denouement to the story, which is he only spends 4 years in the asylum. He's released 4 years later.
Oh, really?
Apparently cured.
No. Does he get...
No. He heads back to live closer to his wife and his kids. Not with them.
No, because I don't think that would happen.
I don't think anyone's that forgiving.
No.
I think even like Christ would say, come on, mate.
Yeah.
There's a limit. But even I can't forgive you.
The amount of embarrassment you must feel, because that's something that's a private endeavor that he's involved with just himself. Yeah. He would, in his mind, thinking, no one's ever going to find this out, so I can do what I like. But like, there's this point where if someone does find that because he left the curtains open, like the embarrassment one must feel, like...
I'd never considered that. The sheer kind of, when the police arrive, he must have been sat there saying, do you know what, fellas? I fucked up.
Yeah.
We all know that I fucked up. So let's make this as painless as possible. Take me to the asylum.
Yeah. But no, someone puts it on display. It has the whole story next to it. Jesus.
So they don't live together, his wife and him, but she does pop over and kind of look after him as he gets older, which is sweet of her.
Okay, that's quite
kind of
sweet.
Sorts out his meals. But does he break up with Elena? No, he doesn't. The corpse is, of course, unobtainable. There's no way that he's going to be allowed back to go and see her corpse.
Right.
So instead, he manages to get a copy of her death mask. Which, do you know what a death mask is?
No, that's news to me.
So it's quite a common thing before the age of photography is you take a plaster cast of someone's face when they die so that you can see them forever. So most of the major figures of history have got death masks. You see Napoleon's death mask. There was a famous death mask called the L'inconnu du Seine, the unknown girl of the Seine River, who I'll tell you about it in a future date.
Yeah, please do. I look forward to that one.
People would have copies of it in their houses, just like in the same way that we have like knickknacks. They just have a random dead woman's death mask.
Okay, anyway, it sounds grim and awful.
Yeah, people are mental. Don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah,
people are very strange. So anyway, he gets Elena's death mask.
Is it like what's the taxidermy almost? It's a bit
kind of, except it's just an imprint. It's a plaster cast of the face.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is the macabre thing about it is the impression of a dead face rather than there's nothing physically macabre about it.
Okay.
Unless you stick it on a life-size doll and then have sex with that doll for the last 8 years of your life, of course. In which case, it's fucked up.
Yeah. Are we going down that road?
Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
Oh, of course he did.
That's exactly what he does.
Oh, man. Just how... Yeah. That really was his dream girl.
It really was.
It really was.
I don't even know if she had any idea about it when she was alive. She might have just known him as the radiation doctor when she had consumption.
That's a good point.
She barely knew him.
None the wiser.
Yeah. Very strange. So, and there's a rumor, probably not true, he may have just collapsed of a heart attack, but there's a rumor that when he died, he was found in the arms of this life-size doll with this dead woman's face, which is a nice mental image.
That's a nice mental image.
On this Halloween Monday.
Jesus Christ. Okay. I wonder if the listener can ever recover from that.
I wonder if the listener's still there.
Yeah, they might have just got, we might literally be talking to no one else at the moment.
Yeah, well, I can only apologise.
Yeah, history's grim.
It is. As people are grim. I think the weirdest... that's not the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing about it is him having sex with the corpse for 7 years. Now that's messed up.
That is messed up.
It's the kind of having to go through the process of putting in a tube.
Like, there's method to it. You actually have to plan that one out to make sure it works.
You see the neighbours in the morning. What are you doing today, Carl? Nothing. You got that tube for and that hacksaw. Nothing.
You don't need to worry about it.
Just thought I'd make a blowpipe or something. I don't know, just normal Sunday stuff around the Tanzler household.
Well, I mean, all my stuff seems very tame, and like the apocalypse of climate change seems.
Do you know, we kind of deserve it as a species.
I think we do, actually. I think you're absolutely right. For all of humanity.
And when I read stories, I like to think kind of, is there a part of me that could do that kind of thing? Like, is there a part of me that could be Frodo? Is there a part of me that could be like Hamlet? Yeah. Maybe. Is there a part of me that could be Carl Tanzler? Absolutely not. No way in hell. No. I don't think I could even break into a cemetery, let alone break into a cemetery with a toy truck.
Yeah.
Let alone put a corpse on
detail. Yeah. Oh, man.
I like to imagine I had a wonky wheel that was squeaking on the way home.
And what was his name? It was German.
Yeah, of course he's German.
Of course he's German. Of course
we live here. We know these people.
Jesus, yeah.
Carl Tanzler.
Carl Tanzler. Well, I'm going to look at that image and I will regret when I look at it. I know.
You will. You will. It's not macabre as an image, but for what it signifies, which is just the most fucked up guy.
Well, listener, I hope you haven't thrown up on the floor, or if you have, we're sorry. I'm sorry.
Why don't you take a photo of it and then tweet it to us
Yes.
at Gaps in Knowledge Podcast, or look us up on Facebook, Email gapsofknowledge@outlook.com.
And if you want to check us on YouTube, you can do so on just by searching Gaps in Knowledge. And is there one that we've missed?
Did I get the Twitter handle right? I'm not sure.
At Gaps Podcast.
At Gaps Podcast.
Where we will see everyone's vomit.
Yeah, send me a photo of your sick. That's another thing you can clip.
Oh, God.
For my file.
Well, we slid to the end point quite seamlessly
abruptly.
there, disgustingly on this Halloween special.
Exactly. And unlike poor Elena, this podcast will end.
It will end.
With dignity.
I think it will. Should we call it a day?
I think so. Yeah.
I need to have a shower.
Ta-ra.
Bye-bye.